Welcome to the Sherry Andrea Psychic Empath Show with your host, Sherry Andrea. Sherry Andrea brings her listeners interesting discussions and topics related to empathy, psychic and spiritual development, as well as energy work. She is herself a psychic empath, healer, coach, author, and founder of SherryAndrea.com. Welcome, and here is your host, Sherry Andrea.
And thank you for joining me. This is Sherry Andrea. Thank you for listening and for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I really appreciate it. I'm going to try to actually make this recording shorter than the last one. And I know I said that with the last one. I know with the last one I said that I was going to try to make it short for you. And that didn't happen. I didn't pull that off. And I actually surprised myself and I talked almost an hour. But I can, even now, I love going to Cryon.com, and I'll go there and I'll listen to the audios. I just love listening to his voice. It is so relaxing. And often halfway through listening to the channeling, I'll often fall asleep because I get so relaxed and I'm focusing on his voice. It's so relaxing, and before you know it, I'm waking up and I'm like, oh, I think I only made it halfway through it and I have to start listening. You know, I have to find the point that I left off at or that I last remember. But a lot of times when I listen to audio recordings, what I'll do is, many times it may take me all day to listen. You know, I'll start listening and then I'll pause it and then I have things to go do. And so if you have to do that, don't feel that you have to listen to the whole thing at one time. If you see that the show that I've recorded, you know, is an hour or longer, just know that there is nothing wrong with breaking it up like you need to, you know, start listening. Or what's even better, it makes it easier if you download it and then just, you know, listen and then just pay attention to where you left off as far as how many minutes in. And then there's nothing wrong with, it's just like reading a book. You know, we pick up a book and often we do not read it all the way through in one shot. I mean, some books we do because they're so good and we can't put them down. But most of the time what we do is we read until we get to, we either get tired or we have things to go do, and we take our time and reread it. And we usually want to do that. Why? Because we want to gain some understanding from it. We want to, first of all, we want to remember what we read. And sometimes if we're tired, we'll be reading and realizing that I don't know what I've read for the last page and a half. So listening to an audio isn't much different. You can tend to zone out on a recording just because maybe you're tired, maybe that's not the best time for you to be listening or you can be focused. So cut yourself some slack and don't feel like you have to listen to it all at one time. Anyway, the topic today is going to be the right to walk the path. And actually, the topic that I first had for this show was the right to walk the path God's way. But really, this is about the right to walk the path, period. The reason why I felt this was so important to discuss is because often we have so many people putting information and knowledge out there, then so many people trying to help other people. And I have said this actually many times, and actually I've pondered this so many times. It's like as whether you call yourself, you know, a light worker, just call yourself spiritual, and you know, and you have decided that your purpose, you have realized that your purpose is to help others. I think that most often we target each other. What I mean by that is I communicate more often and have people communicating with me more often and telling me things are, others who are, I guess you could call it in my same niche, or their purpose is similar to mine. And often I think, who we really need to reach, of course, are the people who are completely unawakened. I'm not saying we need to go and poke them awake or anything, but what I'm saying is that's who often we all feel that we really need to get what we have to say out to, are those people that haven't heard it from anybody. But say you're like me and you feel like you've been on the path for a while and you've been visiting maybe lightworkers.org, maybe Cryon.com, maybe even StevePavlina.com, and you've been working at it a while. Well, often what we tend to do, it's easier for us to say things to each other. I mean, I can't count the number of times I've had another person who's on a similar path than me come to my website and attempt to correct something I've said, or say, hey, I have something to offer. I can here's an article that I've written. And of course, I'm not being mean or anything, but of course I'm like, okay, well, don't you have a blog of your own? You know what I mean? It's like, why use mine? You know what I mean? Because often we have varied truths, because it depends on where we are along our path, the truth that we have. And life doesn't go in order. Everybody always wants to put it in order. Step 1 is this, step 2 is that. Well, the reality is, even if you say there are 10 things everyone has to learn, well, guess what? I guarantee you we wouldn't be learning them in any certain order. It wouldn't be like step 1 truth is this, step 2 is that. No. You might start at 10, I might start at 2. Somebody else might start at 5. Somebody else might start at the end and be working their way back to the beginning. That's the reason for the topic of this show, is because I really do feel like we need to cut ourselves some slack. And if we can't cut ourselves some slack, then when people who are newly awakening and have so many questions and really need some good, solid help come to us, how are we going to be able to help them if we can't even cut our own selves some slack? If we don't even between each other have a good understanding of how this works, what is allowed. And notice I didn't say what is allowed and what is not allowed. No, it's about what is allowed. I have a path, and I have the right to walk that path. And as I'm walking it, I am picking up new truths. I'm changing. My belief system is constantly adjusting, of course, because everything is about change. Everything is in a constant state of change at all times. We're never done. We're never done with anything. Even truths that we are absolutely sure, this is the absolute truth. You'll surprise yourself down the road, and that truth will either change completely or slightly change, and you'll actually even surprise yourself. You'll be like, wow, I was so sure of that truth. That truth was just so solid. But then something happened and made you relook at it, and it changed. But that's the right you have. The right you have is to walk the path the way you need to, the way you plan to. And I can't take that away from you, just like I don't expect anyone to take it away from me. I have people come to me and, they'll say, well, you got to watch out because you believe this, and that's not true, and this is what's the truth. Okay, and I'll get to it when I get to it. That's my right. God gave it to me, and no one can take it away. And it's for a reason. We all learn the truths that we learn, and in the way we learn them, and in the speed we learn them, for a reason. Nothing happens by accident. If I, for example, had a truth for a while, that then eventually I realized, things were a little bit different than I thought, and now that I've acquired some new knowledge and some new understanding, and now that I am ready for it, I'm realizing things are a little bit different. Well, that was supposed to happen that way, for a reason. But some people, they will learn something and they'll really, in a very sincere way, they'll want to share it because they'll want to help other people. They don't want you to walk along and not see that hole and step in it. And that's nice and that's kind. And I too would like to stop everyone from stepping in the hole. However, I've realized how important it is to step in that hole. Because the very stepping in that hole, there is something that you're going to gain from that. There is something to be gained from having stepped in the hole, made a mistake, gone down the wrong path, and had to realize it, and then readjust to go down the right path. There is learning in all of that. There is something that you gain from all of that. Don't ever let anyone take it away from you. And believe me, as you get further and further along the path, you will come to situations where people will be trying to do just that, not consciously or purposely, but in the guise of helping. People get enthusiastic. And sometimes we get enthusiastic and we'll forget some of the most important things is that there was a reason for all of this. If we weren't supposed to learn and grow and walk the path like we are, we wouldn't be doing it. So if in fact we are, there's a reason for it. Think of all the things that you've experienced in your life that, here's the example I can use. My mother so often will remind me of things that I did when I was younger. She'll remind me and bring up those mistakes, never letting them go. Thanks, Mom. And now it makes me giggle a little because when she brings up these things, I think of what I learned from them. I think of these mistakes I made, but I think of the experience that I gained from what I did. The experience, what I learned from it, how it's helped me, and how maybe now I'm able to help others who are going through that same experience, or I'm able to coach someone because at least I can relate. Nothing's bad, but there are many people out there that still, you have to understand, still label things as good versus bad. There are still people out there that think the right way is to do things the right way. I'm sure a lot of you have heard this. If I see that you're going to make a mistake, or, if I've had that experience before and can help you, well, of course I'm going to help you so you don't have to make the mistake. Well, guess what? That's you taking my experience and my opportunity and my chance to learn away from me. So the very thing that people will do for you because they think they're helping you actually doesn't help you. Because you know what? If you step in somebody's way and you stop them from getting the experiences they need to get and learning the lessons they need to learn, those lessons are going to keep coming at them because those were lessons they were meant to learn in this lifetime. And guess what happens? They will keep getting it worse and worse and worse. So stop stepping in people's way. That's the last thing you want to do. If somebody comes to you even and says, I have a problem, I'm going through this, things are awful, I feel horrible. Yes, we tend to jump right in there because we want to help, we want to make them feel better. But sometimes you've got to be able to be strong enough to kind of, not jump right at it, instead of try to look at the reality and to ask that question, could this be a lesson for them? And if so, then how should I handle this so that I don't make the mistake of taking that lesson away from them so that they can still learn it? How can I kind of stay out of their way? How can I not prevent them from learning the lesson they planned for themselves? Because we planned our life. We made a decision that we wanted to come here, the experiences we wanted to learn, and we did this, most of us did this many, many times. For most of us, this isn't our first parade. For many of us, there's many out there where you've lived thousands of lifetimes. This is not your first one. And you had a reason for doing that. And that was, the overall biggest reason was spiritual growth, which never stops, never changes. We exist to grow. And so we've had so many experiences in so many lifetimes, and our goal is to learn from them. And so you don't want to get in the way of that or take it away from someone by calling yourself experienced and having gone through it, and so I can prevent you from making that mistake I made. No, you don't want to prevent somebody from making the mistake you made, because in fact, maybe they're supposed to make that mistake. Maybe they plan that for themselves, because we plan what we want to experience in our lifetimes. We plan when we've decided to come here, and we very much do decide we want to come here. We can't wait to get back here when we leave. So call it what you will. If it makes it easier for you to understand, then call it or consider it a divine plan. And by that I mean a divine plan, something that is higher and more important than what we understand at our human lesser self level. Think of it as, okay, I know I may think this, but on a higher level than that, what's going on? And if you take the time to think that way, often you'll come, the first thing you'll think is, okay, well, there's really more at play here, and there's really more working here than I know meets the eye, than I know that I can see, that I know I have awareness of. And it's those things that we don't have that conscious awareness of that are the things that often trip us up, or the things that often hold us back, the simple things, because they are in fact simple. This is going to sound a little funny, but I think of it like this. Okay, this is me, that's you. Now we can get together and we can help each other, and we can share knowledge and everything, but in the end, at the end of the day, this is me, and that's you. And we don't want to interfere with each other's path. We don't want to make it harder for each other. You could share knowledge, but maybe you need to ponder it and decide, okay, what's the best way to share? Well, the way I do it, and this can be a hard question actually, but the way I do it is I try not to see an invitation in everything. I try to wait for people to come to me and to ask me for help, first of all. I don't generally, and you may find this surprising, but I don't generally go to people or kind of invite myself in and be like, oh, I see you made this comment, or I see you said this, I can help you. I don't generally do that. Why? I'll be honest with you and take from it what you will. But I don't do that because I don't I'm trying to find the right words, because you know how it's said about God, his ways are not our ways, and so we can't understand them, because he works in the most amazing way. He's always working. He's always working. Nothing happens by accident. And things are always going on behind the scenes that we're not even aware of. I mean, the most amazing things. And so the reason why I say that is to explain the depth of trust. The depth of trust that you have for God, universal source, the one, whatever you want to call it. But you have to find within you this trust and this faith where you believe that if your help was needed, if somebody needs your help, God's going to send them your way. And sometimes it's not even, people aren't sent our way and we're not, they're sent our way and we're not meant to just go all out. Sometimes we are just meant to be there and listen. Sometimes we're just meant to be in their presence because our energy and our vibration will make them feel better. Sometimes we don't have to open our mouth to say a word. Often, I don't actually that's wrong. I shouldn't say often. I never have to do anything or say anything to be of help. If somebody needs healing, they don't need to even ask me. Just their intention that they want healing from me actually works. But of course, if someone asks me for healing, or of course I do that, I give that. But you have to understand that there is something not outside yourself, but there is something within you that you could trust fully. If somebody needs help, and you're meant to help them, they'll be sent your way. Now, just because they're sent your way, we don't want to assume that we're meant to, go all out and say, this is what you need to do, that's what you need to do. Sometimes we just need to listen and be there, because people they're not just there enough. There is a lot of power in just being present. And many people, they get so caught up in, all of us, me too, we get so caught up in what we do, what we can do, the knowledge that we can share, that we forget that really we're doing great if we are just there being present. So as I've said before, I am, I've explained the lesson that Jesus taught at the Last Supper, that the master isn't always the teacher, and sometimes the student is the master. So I've explained this so many times, and I probably said it in almost all of the shows that I've done, that many times, if you pay attention, that at the same time that you're the student, you're the master. That this is something that's going on simultaneously. It seems sometimes like we're flip-flopping back and forth, but really we aren't. Really, we're always both those things at all times. And just because, you go to someone or you're going to go to somebody and in your view you see them as more of a teacher, don't forget that they're also the student, because they never stop being the student. We're never done. We're never finished. spiritual advancement is not something, it's something you graduate from as far as like levels of advancement. You know, you get to certain points where you advance to this point, you advance to this point, but it's never that, like, there's never that final graduation where it's like you're done, and you never have to, you know, you're done reading, you're done learning. You're never finished. You're always, at all times, the student. And when you look at other people, you have to remember that. Don't see them as just the teacher. See them that maybe at that moment they're playing the role of the teacher for you, but at the same time, they're still the student, and that's regardless of whether they realize it or not. You know, this is something very divine, and that's at a much higher level than just the lesser self-human experience. This is something you don't have a control over, that none of us have a control over. It is the way it is that we are the master and the student at all times. Mainly of ourselves, hopefully, because that's the most important person to be the master and the teacher of, is ourselves. And we can't be too quick to want to be the teacher of others. We have to remember that we really, really need to keep focused on being the teacher of our own self, because we can't help another person, you know, until we reach certain levels. And, you know, I mean, you could tell from my blog, I mean, if you were to read my blog from, like, beginning to end, you would actually be able to kind of get a pretty good picture of, you know, the path and how I advanced along the path, and how, you know, I started out with just, you know, knowledge, and then at some point I began to gain understanding, and you would be able to see kind of how I kind of grew as I went along. And we're constantly doing that. And even today, I mean, things that I have shared, don't think that they won't change. But, you know, it takes, if you gain some level of control of your ego, and you gain humility, and you know that it's okay, you know the truth, that you're still always a student, you won't be embarrassed of that. You won't feel bad about that. You'll actually feel really good about that. And if you get to those, when you get to those points where you have some truths that, you know, adjust more, and maybe you think of them, I mean, I have truths that I consider to be huge, that when they adjust, it's kind of, for me, it's kind of like, oh boy, you know, it's like, this was a pretty, you know, huge thing that I've actually taught about. And now, you know, my belief system and my truths, because of a higher level of this understanding that I'm achieving, I'm starting to see even clearer. So as I see clearer and clearer, then I can, you know, I can get to that point where I'm like, oh, I get it now. I understand now that I really, a year ago, I really only saw, I saw the truth, but it was like a partial picture that I saw. And if I had seen a much wider view, a more panoramic view than what I saw, I would have seen that it was much different. And so you have to understand that. And I don't feel that I have to ask anyone to cut me some slack, because guess what? That same slack, you're going to want somebody to cut you. You know what I mean? We're all gonna go through it. And hopefully we will have people around us that are understanding of that, and actually do understand that, and actually have gained the knowledge to at least understand that we don't stop changing and growing. And that's a part of the path, and you've got to let people have their path. I have to let you go through what you're supposed to go through so that you can learn. I always tell people that I'm coaching that, when they ask me questions and then I'll answer them. And sometimes before I answer them, I'll be like, oh boy, okay. Before I say this, let me premise this with, and when you find you're answering questions and you're having to give a disclaimer beforehand, that's really like an oh boy. But, I've many times had to give a disclaimer before I've shared knowledge with someone, because I understand that it's going to be knowledge that may so go against their existing belief system and may be so shocking to the point where they will immediately maybe want to, not claim that. They'll immediately want to say, oh no, that can't be true. So I always have to explain to people, you can ask a question, but when you get the answer, that's not it. You have to come to the understanding of it on your own. That is not something somebody can give you. So if somebody answers a question for you, it is actually, it's right to ponder what they've told you. Ponder it, meditate on it. You have to come to your own understanding. Somebody just can't tell you. You just can't be told things and that's good, that's good enough. If only it would work that way. If only that would be good enough, and if only that would help us to spiritually advance, that would be wonderful. But unfortunately, that is not the case. When somebody answers a question for you, you have to use what is called the power of discernment. You have to discern for yourself what is in fact true. You have to discern for yourself the true understanding of that. And you can do that many ways. Some people just ponder it for a while. Some people purposely go into meditation with the goal of meditating on it and trying to bring in understanding about it so that they can discern whether or not they're going to pick that up or not as a truth. This show right now is very important, and I'll tell you why it's important. It's because in the next month, 2 months, I will be speaking about some things that I have been, some knowledge and understanding that I've been given recently that is very huge, and I consider that it's, the way I think about it, is it's going to be difficult, to say the least, because it's going to go against many things that many people believe. But, I took the time to ponder it, and, after pondering it for a while, you come to that realization that you just can't sit on it. You come to that realization that that for your own spiritual advancement, if you make that decision that, I can't do that, I can't share that, I can't speak that truth, you might as well not. I might as well just throw in the towel, and trying to reach my ultimate goal of enlightenment and becoming Christ. I might as well throw that towel in completely. Because what is said is that the leaves of the tree of life that are given to you each day are not for yourself, but are for the sharing of the nations, for every man, woman, and child on this planet. It is, in fact, not for me. You have to get to that point where you understand that it's not for you, it's not about you, it's actually about everyone. The things that you're experiencing, you're going through, it seems maybe like you're the one that benefits most. But really, if you take a wider panoramic look, you will understand that the things that you're experiencing and the things that you're learning from that are growing you up, who really benefits from them? Just you? No. Everyone gets to benefit from them at some point you're going to realize that, wait a minute, this wasn't just given to me just for me to hoard it. It was given for me so that I could be another one to share it, to get it out there, to spread it. So that's my, I guess you could call that my little disclaimer for some things that are that I'm going to be speaking about that I'm telling you right now may not go over too well. But I'll deal with that. I mean, you make a commitment to be on a path, you'll know how serious you are about the commitment. You'll know if you can do it when you get to those points in time where the road gets really bumpy and the terrain gets rough. What are you going to do? Are you going to look for a smoother path? Or are you going to, commit yourself to keep going and keep telling yourself, no, it'll be okay, because it's going to smooth out eventually. I trust this path. Are you going to trust it? And are you going to stick to your commitment? And that all depends on who are you really in it for. Have you lost that part of your negative ego that has you in it for yourself? Or are you totally 100% in it and it's not even about yourself anymore? You will come to that point where you realize that you just can't see yourself making it, so to speak. You can't see yourself, reaching certain ultimate goals if you're the only one. No, you actually get to that point where you have to at least, drop some breadcrumbs. You have to at least do that. And you get to that point where you feel like that's the only thing that's right, would be for you to drop the breadcrumbs and, to help, others that are going to need to find their way as well. Well, this is pretty much where I'm going to end the show today. I hope you've enjoyed listening. I've enjoyed you listening. And if you need to contact me, my email address is sherry@sherryandrea.com. That's SherryAndrea. Or you can go to my website. There's a lot of information on my website. So if there's anything you want to know, use the search feature on the website. It's SherryAndrea.com. And I look forward to the next time. And I hope you have a great day. Remember, if you want to donate, there's a donate link on my blog. Even if it's only $1, I appreciate it. It helps cover the cost of having the website, doing the show. It helps because for the most part, the majority of people who are coming to me, although I do the coaching sessions, the majority of those of you who are coming to me and asking me questions, aren't actually paying. And often, it may take me quite a bit of time answering the questions you have. I spend a great portion of my day answering questions via email, comments on the blog, in addition to, helping people via doing coaching sessions for them. So I give a great portion of my time away. So any help that you can give so that I can continue helping all of you would be greatly appreciated. Like I said, even if it's only $1, anything is appreciated. So feel free to go to my blog and do that. And like I said, if you have any questions or if there's anything that I've talked about today that you want to know more about or that you want me to explain further, feel free to contact me. But until next time, have a great day, and don't forget to have a lot of fun and smile a lot.